Picture this. You're standing on the misty shores of a Norwegian fjord in 922 AD. The cold wind whips through your hair as longships bob in the dark, churning waters. The air carries the sharp tang of salt and the heavy scent of smoke from nearby fires. In the distance, the low, mournful chants of a funeral rite echo off the towering cliffs. A great Viking chieftain has just died, his body laid out on a massive wooden ship, surrounded by his weapons, treasures, and the loyal warriors who served him in life. But as you push through the crowd of fur-clad mourners, your eyes lock onto something that makes your stomach churn. A young woman, dressed in fine linens and adorned with gleaming silver jewelry, is being led toward the pyre. She's not just another mourner, she's his wife, or perhaps one of his concubines. And what she's about to endure is one of the most brutal traditions in Viking history. Whispers ripple through the gathering. She must join him in death, her life sacrificed to serve him in the afterlife. This isn't a romantic tale of eternal love. It's a horrifying ritual of control, power, and unimaginable suffering that reveals the dark underbelly of Viking society. If you're fascinated by uncovering hidden truths that challenge everything we think we know about the past, please hit that like button, subscribe for more stories like this, and drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from. It's incredible how these ancient tales connect us across oceans and centuries, from the fjords of Scandinavia to wherever you are right now. Let's keep exploring the past together to honor those whose stories deserve to be told. What you're about to hear isn't just another myth of fierce warriors and epic sagas. It's the stark reality of what happened to Viking women when their husbands died, a practice so disturbing that even contemporary observers from other cultures recorded it with shock and revulsion. We're talking about ritual sacrifice, forced participation in death rites, and the systematic erasure of women's autonomy in a world where honor and the afterlife trumped human life. These women's names may not be as famous as Ragnar Lothbrok or Lagertha from popular TV shows, but their stories will stay with you, a testament to the cruelty hidden behind the Viking legend. The Viking Age, spanning roughly from 793 to 1066 AD, was a time when Norse raiders, traders, and settlers swept across Europe like a storm from the north. They weren't just barbaric pillagers. They built a complex society rooted in clans, longhouses, and a deep reverence for gods like Odin, Thor, and Freya. Marriage was less about love and more about strategy, alliances forged to strengthen family ties, secure land, or build political power. Women, especially those of high status, were vital, managing households, weaving textiles as valuable as any sword, and bearing children to carry on the bloodline. But beneath this veneer of domestic importance, women were often seen as property, their fates tied to their husbands. When a man died, whether in battle, from old age, or disease, his widow didn't just grieve. She was thrust into a web of rituals that could end her life. Historical accounts, like those from Arab traveler Ahmad ibn Fadlan, who witnessed a Viking funeral on the Volga River in 922 AD, paint a chilling picture. Ibn Fadlan, a Muslim diplomat, encountered the Rus Vikings, Norse settlers in what is now Russia, and documented their customs with fascination and horror. He describes a chieftain's funeral where a young slave girl was chosen, or coerced, to be sacrificed alongside her master. But this wasn't limited to slaves. Sagas and archaeological evidence suggest wives or high-ranking women faced similar fates, especially if they had no children or if clan honor demanded it. Imagine being that woman. You spent years in a longhouse, tending the fire, negotiating with traders, perhaps fighting in raids as a shield maiden. Your life has been one of hardship and resilience, surviving harsh winters, famine, and the threat of invasion. Now, with your husband's death, everything changes. The community gathers to ensure his spirit journeys to Valhalla, or the halls of the gods with proper accompaniment. A great man needed servants, animals, and women in the afterlife to maintain his status. Sacrifice wasn't seen as murder, but as a sacred duty to honor the dead and appease the gods. For the women involved, it was terror incarnate. Preparations began immediately. The body was washed, dressed in fine clothes, and placed in a temporary grave or on a ship while the funeral pyre was readied, a process that could take days or weeks. The widow or chosen woman was treated like royalty, given the best food, drink, and even sexual freedoms with the men of the tribe, as if to offer a final taste of life's pleasures. Ibn Fadlan notes how the girl in his account was plied with intoxicating drinks, her mind clouded to ensure compliance. This was manipulation, not kindness, designed to dull resistance. The psychological pressure was immense. Family honor, threats of disgrace, and beliefs in the afterlife could force submission. Some widows may have chosen this path, seeing it as a way to reunite with their beloved or escape a life of poverty, remarriage to a lesser man, or enslavement. But the line between choice and coercion was razor-thin in a patriarchal world where women's voices were rarely recorded. As the funeral day approached, the tension built. The ship was loaded with the chieftain's possessions, weapons, sacrificed horses and dogs, treasures from distant lands. The woman was adorned in her finest, brooches, beads, embroidered dresses, a macabre bridal preparation for death. Chants invoked the gods as the community watched, some with grief, others with grim acceptance. The act itself was brutal. The woman was often strangled, stabbed, or both, her body placed beside her husband's before the ship was set ablaze or buried. Ibn Fadlan describes the slave girl being lifted to peer into the afterlife, claiming to see her master calling her, before being killed by an elder woman, the angel of death, who wielded the knife with ritual precision. Blood flowed, mixing with offerings as flames consumed everything, the smoke believed to carry their spirits to the gods. But think of the human cost, the fear in her eyes, the betrayal by her community. This wasn't glory, it was horror, stripping women of agency even in death. These rituals weren't uniform across the Viking world. In Scandinavia's heartland, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, wife sacrifice was less common among settled farmers. Graves like those at Birka show high-status women buried with keys, symbolizing household authority, suggesting natural deaths. The Elder Edda hints at afterlife beliefs where souls reached Valhalla without human escorts. Yet, exceptions existed. The saga of the Volsungs tells of Signy choosing death by fire rather than shame, echoing ritual suicides. Double burials sometimes reveal trauma, strangled necks, or stabbed torsos, indicating coerced ends during crises like failed raids. Among the Rus along the Volga, rituals were more elaborate, influenced by Slavic and steppe nomad customs. Ibn Fadlan's account describes theatrical spectacles, with wife or concubine sacrifice elevating a chieftain's funeral. The angel of death orchestrated the event, blending midwife and executioner roles. Animal sacrifices, beheaded horses, hallucinogenic rituals. In the British Isles and Ireland, where Vikings established kingdoms like Dublin, Christianity challenged these practices. The annals of Ulster record Viking funerals with horror, but evidence of human sacrifice is scarcer, possibly suppressed by monks. In the Orkney Islands, tombs suggest symbolic offerings replaced lives. By the late 10th century, Christian kings like Olaf Tryggvason eroded these practices, with laws like Iceland's Grágás prohibiting human offerings. Amid this darkness, stories of defiance shine. Women like Aud the Deep-Minded, a 9th century Irish-Norse noblewoman, refused the pyre, leading her family to Iceland to found a settlement, as chronicled in the Laxdæla saga. Others use cedar magic or bribes to escape. A Swedish runestone commemorates a widow who lived to raise her children, implying she evaded ritual demands. These survivors relied on alliances but faced exile or accusations of witchcraft. The psychological toll was immense, chance, smoke, and expectation crushing their spirits. Yet, their defiance highlights women's subtle influence through textiles, trade, and counsel, sometimes overturning oppressive traditions. As Christianity spread in the 11th century, human sacrifice was outlawed. Kings like Harald Bluetooth enforced churchyard burials, granting widows protections under laws like Norway's Magnus Lagabøte's Landslov of 1274. Yet, old beliefs lingered in folklore, tales of draugr tied to improper burials. Widows faced new pressures, shunned or pushed into convents. This legacy shaped medieval Europe. Viking descendants, Normans, Rus, carried diluted attitudes into their conquests. In England, post-1066 Norman laws granted women some rights but kept them subordinate. In Russia, the Kievan Rus mixed Norse and Slavic customs, rarely sacrificing women. Scandinavian gender equality today partly stems from backlash against these oppressions, with medieval women pushing for reforms. Modern archaeology revolutionizes our understanding. Excavations like the Oseberg ship burial, 834 AD, reveal women with possible signs of violence, suggesting sacrifice. DNA and isotopic studies show some are outsiders, perhaps war captives. Ethical debates swirl. Scandinavian museums face repatriation demands from indigenous groups whose ancestors were victims. Feminist scholars argue for sensitivity to gender bias in male-authored records. Exhibitions like Oslo's Viking ship museum now highlight women's suffering, moving beyond warrior glory. A 2017 Birka grave study revealed a female warrior, sparking debate on shield maidens escaping sacrificial fates. Pop culture, from Vikings to Assassins' Creed Valhalla, often sanitizes these horrors, but podcasts and documentaries are shifting focus to archaeological evidence of abuse. These stories resonate globally, drawing parallels to honor killings or sati. UNESCO's Viking sites educate on gender dynamics, emphasizing women's autonomy. Survivors' tales, women migrating post-widowhood, rebuilding lives, offer inspiration. They transformed endings into beginnings, their legacies etched in the land. These women weren't just victims but complex individuals, mothers, weavers, traders, warriors, whose lives were altered by a worldview prioritizing the dead. Their stories, unearthed from graves and sagas, demand we listen and act. They remind us that power can corrupt traditions into tragedies, but human will can transform suffering into strength. If these tales of hidden history have moved you, hit that like button, subscribe, and comment with your thoughts. Did this change how you see the Vikings? Where are you watching from? Let's keep uncovering the past together, honoring those who endured, so we can build a better future. Thank you for joining this journey. May their resilience inspire us to challenge oppression and celebrate the human spirit across time.